All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So again, everybody, welcome to our webinar. So I'm Vaughn Harper. I'm the current CGIA chair. So today's webinar topic is going to be an update from the California Geographic Information Officer. And then we're going to have a bit of a conversation about supporting new GIS professionals. So first up, Isaac Cabrera is going to speak to us for a little bit about whatever's on his mind today, and then we'll roll into a little more of an interactive portion. So I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Isaac Cabrera. Isaac is the State of California GIO and Manager of Data and Geospatial Services at the California Department of Technology. So prior to his current role, Isaac has served in a few different GIS roles. So one was for Contra Costa County, and then was also involved in GIS coordination and management at the counties of Merced and Madera. And then he's also been involved as chair on the California GIS Council, which is one of our cohort organizations that you see us do many other webinars and other things along with. And then he's also served on several of the California GIS Council subcommittees. And so as we're going through this whole presentation and the Q&A part, if you have any questions, please type them in. There should be a Q&A or a chat thing that you see on your panel that you can type in anything you want to ask or hear more about. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can hand it over to Isaac.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Vaughn. I really appreciate it. I think that I'd like to keep, like my personal, I've always liked to keep, if people want to know more about me, I'm more than willing to talk about it, but I think that the focus today should be, about what the questions we have and I'd like to be as interactive as possible. As I told everyone here that as well, so that people can actually it's just not me talking at you and you feel like you have access to me to talk about what's going on in the state, what I'm seeing. I think the only thing that I can really update everyone on is that I'm working on it. The current high priority initiatives that I'm working on are COVID-19 and vaccinations, very involved in that data effort for the state and counties and and the various entities that are surround that effort, as well as other people in the state, other agencies and departments in the state. A specific GIS high priority for myself right now, we're working to create a unified, give me a second. We're working to create a unified evacuation data layer that counties can feed to CalOES. And what that means is that everyone will have the same situational awareness during an event. Because right now, an example of fire in Northern California, 2 different counties, 2 different evacuation plans. Maybe one has an evacuation plan, pre-planned, complete workflows, all entities are involved, city, county, CalOES, federal. Where another county is more flying by the seat of their pants the best they can. They create the evacuation on the fly. The sheriff's leading the whole thing, which usually happens. But let me turn these noises off. Apologies. And the idea from this workflow will be that those that have some type of evacuation plan, whether it be ad hoc or something that's been created and pre-generated, can flow that data to an aggregation point. Automation picks it up, pushes it together. Counties are part of that. The counties and the decision makers that create and maintain that data are part of the decision process. It pushes up to CalOES, who then pushes it out to the entire state, including the public, so that everyone's making the situational awareness. Everyone's making these life and property decisions together using the same data. And a good example, a really great example of how that works is that when CalOES, CAL FIRE, and other agencies like toxic substances, during cleanup, when they all have the same information, that things help gets there faster to who needs it the most. So that's just one of the large initiatives. I'm also working on the State of California GIS strategic plan, and I'm working hand in hand with our state chief data officer, Joy Bunneker, on that. It's really an all-encompassing data plan, so that data and tools and agreements, both but state and local government and private, public-private partnerships are included, including GIS. So I'm working on that, and we're working on these shared services and ideas like, remote sensing, aerial photography, LiDAR, streets, parcels, address points. We're talking about these data, these foundational big data layers that we all have in our, it's not a bad thing, right? But we all have them in our silos, whether it be at the city, whether it be at the county, whether it be at an individual department or agency within a city or a county, or at the state, and how we can work together to flow that data to a common operating picture so that we're all making decisions together. So some of this is already happening, Next Gen 911, those type of projects that I'm involved in, but are led by others, are addressing some of those foundational data. But it's still, we've still got some work to do. So those are that's what's on the horizon, some of what's on the horizon, and what I'm working on now. I can't go into depth with COVID or vaccine data, sorry, but I can give generalities. But if people want to know how, we can have some other time when we talk about, automation and the cloud and GIS and data. That's not a problem. I've learned quite a bit over the last almost year here working at the state, and I'm more than willing to share. But that's, like I said, that it could take a whole day by itself. So, that's enough. If that's enough about me and what I'm doing, and I look forward to reaching out to all of you in this community, whether you be city, local government, or private or education at EDU, and really talking about how you're using GIS, how the state can coordinate with you, what agencies and departments and branches of the government, state government you're already working with, and even how we can, if you're working across to federal, how we can be part of that process as well. So I'm very, very interested. I'll leave my email in the chat. Yeah, feel free to email me directly. That's about it for me. If people want to know my background and that type of thing, I'm more than willing to talk about it, but I think I'd rather save time for questions that people actually have, especially the young professionals that are here that want to know what the job and the career landscape looks like. And I have my own opinion, right? And I'm biased towards my own opinion, and I have my own experience for where I am, how I got to where I am. But I would really like the opportunity to hear what people say they're going through or where they want to be. And if I can help you, I will. So I'll pass it to Bond now, if there are any questions.
Awesome. So yeah, so we'll give folks who are listening here, as you're thinking, if you have a question about anything Isaac's mentioned or just want to ask him anything in general, please do post it. There's both a Q&A and a chat, either one. We'll see those. So as we wait for folks to drop their stuff in there, just some kind of get to know you questions to kick it off, Isaac. So as we're talking about GIS really seems to be getting a lot of attention. Some of the things you mentioned, I think it's gained some, I don't know if I'd say popularity, but at least a focus on GIS where previously people didn't really think about it or maybe even know the term as much. I think this past year has brought it to the highlight. And so just to let folks know, how did you get started in GIS originally? So I gave your official bio, but before that, what made you want to do computer mapping or GIS, and how did you get into it?
I started off, so my father was the GIS coordinator for the Sierra National Forest there in Central California. So those of you that, Sierra National Forest, right? You've got, everyone knows where Tahoe, and Yosemite is, in Tahoe, and people know where Sequoia is. So sandwiched in between there is the Sierra National Forest. So I heard a lot about GIS since the 80s, since its inception, Dad talking about it. And I went to school, and I was really wanting to do I wanted to do software development and networks and, infrastructure. And that's what I kind of was going that path. And I saw right around the time the federal government, when I was a student assistant at the Forest Service, they had a realignment of they pulled the computer stuff out and databases, and they said, hey, we're going to outsource this. You're going to have, and then my then supervisor was like, why don't you just go volunteer and do GIS with your dad? So that's what I did. And so then I changed my whole career, and I found that I could have the same experience of the infrastructure design, data, and programming, and in GIS. And then really what started me down the path of the scale of GIS that I'm working at now was seeing in the Central Valley. First job I worked out of school was at City of Clovis, and seeing the then retired former GIO of Fresno County, leading a group for the Central Valley and the city and some of the counties. And I like that. I like the regional aspect of policy and making people's lives better by trying to serve out these common shared services, and then kind of evolve from there, right? And that's what we're doing at the state now. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, the common shared stuff is great because I imagine like a lot of us here, duplication of effort and duplication of data drives us all nuts because it's unfortunate because people are wasting time and effort that could be spent on the many things they need to do. And yeah, it just makes it easier for everyone. So we have our first question here from Mr. Steve Steinberg, and his question is, what skills would you recommend as being most critical for a young professional coming into the field? So either technical skills, soft skills.
I think coming in, what I'm seeing is that I'm seeing a lot of people with degrees and certificates, and I would say, you have to put some time in. I did a lot of volunteer when I was young, and I did a lot of, I think my last 4 semesters in college were upper division independent study doing GIS. Like it was basically equity analysis with food deserts when that word came to life, right? And I did, but the amount of experience I got from that translated directly into the type of work I could do. And I think that what students are finding is and just to let you know, like I'm not there lurking on Reddit, but I listen and I watch and I'm watching like RGIS and our mapping and our, all these other things. I pay attention to what people are concerned about and especially young people. And I think that the most important thing is to find something. Your passions will change, but find something you're passionate about and then align it to what Stephen just asked. Align it to something technical that you can do on your free time. Because when you're young and this is like if you have children already and you have obligations, it might not be as easy, right? But if you can, align yourself to something that you're really interested in, even if it's not what you're employed to do at first, and get experience there and then get in those circles, because the internet really right now especially makes that really easy. And just volunteer, and easy examples are, open data. So like you can do OpenStreetMap, right? Or you can do some type of GIS Corp, or you can start digitizing and get into groups for World Health, with the WHO, those type of things. But those are great ways to find a passion in GIS, whether it's data, whether it's editing, whether it's cartography, whether you like the back end stuff, right? So like I do a lot. Those are the ways that you can build those technical skills. So I guess I would say like the technical skills are the things that I see that people have to build a little more, and it would help you quite a bit. And you'd have more options coming in out of college. And I know that's asking a lot for those of students that, some of you are out there to 18 plus units. I get it. But if you can find the time to either have a passion project or a project with this university, with research that'll give you actual hands-on, or you go volunteer at a city or the county, they'll be more than willing to take you, and then you'll actually have experience in a field that can actually translate into experience beyond the minimum qualifications for things that you'd like to be competitive for. So that helps.
Yeah, and listening to you talk about that, I think GIS is really cool to me because it's such a nice sidecar to pretty much any interest because almost any field there's some component where you could tie GIS into. So like you were saying, whatever your interest might be, if you're interested in hiking or, nature preservation or listing things I'm interested in, but I mean, literally anything, sports, like there's stuff that GIS can do and you can apply it to. So it's kind of a cool career in that sense. Let's see, I have another question here. This comes from Dan Scullin. Can you discuss efforts at the state of California to expand paid internship programs for students to get GIS work experience?
I can't talk for everyone, right? But I can talk for CDT, and I know that we have a program with I always want to say with Sac State. We have a program with Sac State for IT GIS, and we're actively looking at expanding it. So that's about all the information I can give because I don't have anything updated beyond that. And I am involved in that, but we're mired in, as a department, we're mired in COVID and vaccine right now. But we are going, as we come out of it, we will make efforts there, and you'll be able to track it. Hopefully, that'll be on our website if you go to cdg.cu.gov.
Thank you. So another one as we wait for more questions to roll in, and this sounds kind of like an interview question, but it's not meant to be like one. But in thinking about your past, what kind of challenges do you feel like you had to overcome as a young GIS professional as you were getting started and moving forward in your career?
I think people, sometimes when you're young and you know what you're doing, I'm not tooting my own horn because a lot of you are very brilliant. I met the young master students, and I met the people coming out, and they, the skill sets you have now are much different than when I was coming out of school. And you know Python really well, spatial analysis really well, right? Cartography. And I think being young sometimes is hard, to be honest. Like, I was a young manager, and some of the challenges were just trying to get that momentum where with executive management to get things done. So being a young manager is kind of hard. Being a young technician that really understands the new trends and trying to change the ideas and how things are done. You're going to face a lot of, we've been doing this way forever. Why do we need this new shiny? And I think a lot of GIS, what happens is when people have been using X or Y software for a decade, 2 decades, and they never upgrade it, and it just works every day. They ask you, why do you want to change it? If it's not broke, don't fix it. And sadly, that's a lot of government, right? Like in the United States, right? So, but I think that how to overcome that challenge is really to show places, or find like a twin city, a twin agency where they've made the transformation and they've seen the ROI. And in government, the ROI is just more time to do other things. But if you're private, the ROI is more time to make more money. So I would really think strategically about how you present things to move people forward, because that's a lot of the things I feel that young people, especially in government, they come into government and they're like, things take forever. Why can't we be at, we're still at desktop, it's going to go away, or we're still at this version of Python, or I can't even get it installed. So I think the idea is to show why the improvement would be needed, show why you need to go to this, show why that you need to change the policy, right? And just sometimes you feel that you can't make a difference, but if you focus your passion and you find a champion to help you, you can get there. So, and I can be that if I can. If I can't, then I don't know. We can go other ways, right? And that's, I think, why. But I just want to tell young people, especially in government, because I've always been in government, and whether it be federal, city, or state, right, or county, but don't be discouraged, and there are more opportunities, like So just want to let you know.
Yeah, I think that's good. And as you were speaking about that, one of the things I was thinking about is a question I have is, because I think there's so much focus is, as you're young and you're growing in your career, on technical skills and growing your technical skills, and conferences focus on software and tech. And a big component of it, is you mentioned, is management. And do you have any particular advice, or, just talk about how you improved your skills in that area? So if someone's looking to grow into more management roles, or oversee projects, how do you make those kind of leaps?
I started volunteering in the workplace. Can I just sit in? If it's going to be a phone call, can I listen? Can I just be a part of it? And then you start learning how you wouldn't do things, how you would do things. Get into a mentorship. If you don't have a mentorship program or a leadership, it's not official leadership academy where you are, create something, right? Create a group of coworkers or young people that you went to school with, and just kind of grassroots it. And that's, because what I did is I saw that I didn't want to be, I came in as a technician and I didn't want to be a technician for more than a year or two. So I started setting goals for myself. I want to get, I want to be, I want to, I know I need to put my time in, but then I want to lead a program. So I come into leading a program. I want to lead a I want to lead a division. Okay, I lead a division. And then like, so it's like I made a path as after I graduate that I wanted to be the GIO of the state of California. And that might not happen, right? But like unrealistic goals push you sometimes, right? And then you can become reality. And I really think that there's a lot to that, right? And you need support to be able to do it. I didn't do it by myself, right? So so that's why I said you create these, if those support groups don't exist, create them or join them and start building your own brand within them, right? So like these are the soft skills they don't tell you about. But if you really
Yeah.
enjoy it, you can transition those soft skills into that, right? And you know, like you might miss out on some other things, but then you're progressing in your own, you progress your own it changes from just a job, right, to a career, something that you really are passionate about. And I'm not saying grind yourself to dust working, 90-hour weeks or whatever, but if that's even possible. I'm horrible sometimes in math, but uh, I'm just saying that a little focus early on makes a big difference as you progress into your career. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be very technical. There's nothing. It's just that if you have uh, aspirations for different things, set these targets. Join these groups. Like you're here right now. Ask people, what did you do to get there? What was your path? And then you can see what you feel comfortable with, and make it your own. So.
Yeah, and I think both, I know CGIA and the GIS Council and Vera, these organizations, I think all of us, our interest in this is in supporting each other and especially supporting those just coming up. And so that's where this board, as we were talking about different webinars we want to do or different focuses we want to have, there was a lot of interest in this idea of supporting the folks coming up, essentially raising up those, because many of us on, boards are later on in our career. So it's nice to be able to figure out how we help those around us. So I noticed there, Norman just pointed out to me, there's a couple questions in the chat as well. So I'll go back to them. One of these, I think, goes back to your comments at the beginning. This is from Jane Schaefer-Kramer, and her question is, can the model workflow being used for the evacuation layers be used for other things, like maybe county boundaries?
Yeah, we already have a prototype for that. It's not public, and it's not, we're working with counties to start talking about this already, but it's nothing that's ongoing, and I don't have progress to give anyone or when it'll be done. Because with county boundaries, I just want to take a second to pause so I don't over talk about it. So the power of what your county boundary is the power lies with the county itself and the elected officials in the county, correct? Not with the state. So the difference between evacuation data, slamming it all into one, and county boundaries is that each of those county boundaries has neighbors around them. And so each of those counties has to work together to align the county boundaries and mutually agree that's the new down boundary and then adopt it at the board level. So there's a layer of governance there that has to be accounted for that makes this project span years, possibly, not just a couple months as we gather people, those that have data, and smash it into a layer. Because really, there probably will be governance on evacuation data layers, within a few years, but currently I don't see any. It's more, let's get it there so we can have situational awareness. So I just wanted to give everyone's an expectation there of how long different types of operations that seem the same take, because there has to be, where county boundaries, evacuation layers, it's okay if they overlap, but with boundaries, county boundaries, where they overlap is a decision that has to be made. The rectification of that has to be given to the counties to decide. So maybe as the state, we host something that tells you where they do, but and then the counties have to take the time they need to be able to make those decisions. So I just wanted to give that I just wanted to set expectation levels there. But I am working on that, and because I came from local government, I understand that. So I'm hoping that'll help me. but that doesn't help it make it go any faster. It just helps us understand and level set. So I wanted to just give that back as a piece there.
Excellent. Thank you. We have another question here. This is from Juan May. Hi, Mr. Cabrera. I'm interested in using GIS in public safety or disasters at the government level. How should I begin my GIS journey? Thank you.
So for disasters, there's a lot of things you could do. So the open data, like OpenStreetMap and the GIS core are huge there. If you're still a student, what you can do is you can join the GIS core, or you can work with who when there's natural disasters that happen. I think the recent earthquake, I forget which country, my coworker was telling me about it. It was a large scale earthquake. It damaged all their infrastructure. Within a month, they had a bunch of volunteers that basically hand placed all the points on top of houses. It's digitized the streets, digitized where electrical infrastructure was from aerial photography. So those type of things get you exposed to the type of data you're going to work with, the type of data you're going to come in as an associate, right? And then you're going to have to maintain, and the type of policy and workflows you're going to have to eventually be responsible for creating and maintaining. Now, if you want a direct internship, or if you're a student, or I would say in California, each sheriff department in California would be more than happy to have a person that has experience and that wants to learn. So those would be good opportunities. The sheriff's departments all throughout California. Also, some have emergency operations centers. They would love, that's a great place to come in as a student, or not even as a student, as someone that just wants to get into how you have that GIS experience, you want to get into that realm. And then I left self-interest the last, right? So CalOES would be a really good place as well. So say that you're already a GIS professional, but you want to switch into emergency GIS management, emergency data management. CalOES is a very busy place. California is huge. We have a pandemic and we have natural disasters about every month. So you have more than enough work here or all over the world once you get experience. Of course, you can go private. Esri and other big GIS firms have whole sections based on emergency data and disasters. So you could also volunteer for FEMA. But of course, I'm going to try to get you to go to California first. Thank you.
And then, Chris, do you want me to read your question, or since you're on the panel, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask it?
That works. I just couldn't type it in because I think I'm on the panel. But you had mentioned computer science when you were talking about your background, and I was just curious on your thoughts of, with all this. So me, myself, I'm just going back to school to get my master's as a 40-something-year-old. So I chose to go a different route. I have a degree in GIS and a background, 20 years in GIS. So I focused more on computer science as opposed to GIS. But so just was curious about your thoughts on kind of that cross-pollination, especially now with like data science and computer science and GIS. It all kind of intermingles, and it's as a educational tract, kind of mixing it up a little bit with your degrees or your educational focus.
No, I think I heard a lot of different things, right? I was double majoring in computer science and geography, and my favorite geography professor was like, "You're done, just go to work." But you don't go to finish computer science. So I didn't finish computer science, but I was taking the classes. So I have a really background in it, right? But I would say cross-pollination is really good. I think right now where we're at is if you already have the GIS experience, you have the degree in GIS, right? And I think it plays to your passion, right? Do you want to develop applications and workflows and data pipelines and really get deep into the dev work? Computer science is where you want to go. But computer science, I would say, is a very strong complement degree to GIS geography because it really opens up a world of possibilities to you, especially if you want to do like really fast, reactive, accessible, equitable like web applications, right? That include GIS data, just data in period. The way that things are going now, in the next 2 years, we're going to at the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be, you know, inundated by all these studies over COVID-19, right? The spatial, you know, way deep into the data science. So I'm thinking the same thing, right? But I'm thinking data for myself. I'm thinking data science. The only reason I'm going to do data science, I'd like data science a master's degree, is because it helps me think critically in a different manner and using statistics more. You know, to like the bigger questions of why, when people like when executives in the state government ask a question, then I can ask the critical why to get the real question instead of iterating a bunch of times of, is this really it? For me, it would be, I'd use the statistics background and data science to really distill that down to the actual answer they want instead of iterate back and forth, right? So that's like, for me, that would be cross-pollination. So I don't know. What I did was I didn't really answer your question because I don't know what you want to do with computer science. Maybe that's what I should ask you first. Like, what do you see yourself doing with computer science?
Well, I'm actually in a data science program, but
Okay.
it's part of the computer in academia. I guess it's all part of the computer science realm,
Okay.
right? But
Yeah.
so yeah, my focus is definitely on data science, and I'm finding a huge amount of pollination between the two, because I really want to, you know, looking for jobs, especially as like a senior level analyst. The amount of programming and so Python and SQL and stuff that they're usually asking in these job interviews is significant, and it's more than I ever learned. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I was trying to hint that to people because I came into COVID and vaccines and all this, and it's a joke, but it's not a joke. The new old language of GIS is SQL. At the heart of it, like if you're using Esri's desktop or Portal Pro, everything in the background is a SQL query, right? It's querying a database. So the more proficient you get in it, like as Chris is saying, and you want to, because you can easily bridge into these other like a business analyst or an analyst and use GIS there instead, right? As Chris is saying, but then the one thing you're going to be expected to do is to be able to use SQL and not just you know, select start from where. You're going to have to be able to build new tables and views and curated tables that just have calculations in them already that other business analysts can connect to and run reports on. So like the scale of and the breadth of your SQL needs to change beyond just the basic like kind of building blocks. And I had to make that jump too. It's something that I really stress, and you know, that SQL Spatial is another thing that I really encourage everyone to learn as students, and it's easy. Use it. You don't need to pay any money. You use an app there's this little tiny database called SQLite. It's free, and it has a little component called SQL Spatial, and you get yourself you know, an IDE, and you connect to it, and you learn SQL really fast and how to use SQL Spatial. So then I think I have a post on LinkedIn. You can go check it, but those type of things like build that. Those are the type of things that we can kind of go back to before, Chris. Like those build you and make you different than other people. Then you can put like, yeah, I have. Then you can say I don't have novice. I have intermediate to expert level SQL experience, right? And you can get these data sets, and you can, like I said, you join these groups and you learn the more complex things, right, as you go. So no, that I see where you're coming from, Chris. So like I wish you well, and I know you'll get there where you want to be.
I think that's a topic the CGIA wants to explore a little more in future webinars and things, because there's so much depth and meat to the data science GIS confluence. So I think there'll be more to come on that. Sure. There's another question here from Anmin. Her question is, can you talk about your thought on what collaboration higher education can do with state and local governments besides providing graduates?
So I'd like to say that I could like help everyone, but I'd like at least if you want to work on like, I think the one thing that could be worked on is bringing, and I don't mean this in a bad way, right? But bringing modern relevance to curriculum. And what I mean by that is having either using newer, I know it's, and I'm not minimizing the amount of work you have to do as a professor, to create a curriculum and get it and go through all the go through the entire workflow of getting it accepted, right, by the chair of the department or and everyone else. But because I had the same, because I'm on an advisory committee for one of the community colleges in the Bay Area. So, but what I would like to do is at least work to show the modern workloads that people are having to do to create data products with GIS. And a lot of them are, some of them are just pure Python, pushing things back and forth. Some of them, in some cases, you do make maps. But what I'm finding a lot of now is that people are pushing data in and out of GIS, in and out of ArcGIS Online, in and out of other databases. And what ends up happening is they come in with the skills to create some GIS data, do some maybe things online, but then they're part of what someone was asking before, like how do I become competitive, is I think either making as part of the certificate programs, especially an externship, for part of a semester. So they go out to government. There's plenty, I mean, UMN's in the perfect place, right? Southern California, there's tons of opportunity there for externship. And then just maybe having getting a good sample of government and private to make sure that maybe, I don't know what the cycle would be, a cycle that's sane, right? And where we update and revise the curriculum. And maybe it's everyone gets, and maybe it's something that both private and public EDU get, so that it's more of a report. And if people choose to align to it, then you can actually then use that report. And if you use the guidelines there and the best practices that get accepted by everyone, and your students do better, then you can use that as part of your marketing material for your graduates and their careers. So just thoughts there.
And I don't see any more. Norman, feel free to interrupt if I've missed something on a chat or a Q&A. So if any of the participants, we have time for some extra questions. So if anybody has anything, again, either chat or Q&A, we'll find them either place. So as we give folks time to think a little, this is kind of, it sounds like a social media argument type question, but do you think it's easier or harder for new professionals now versus when you were starting out?
I think it's the same. It's always going to be the same. It's just perception, right? Like, how hard do you want to volunteer is that's what I say. I volunteered a lot, and that's how I got my experience. But I know that that's not everyone's case, right? My parents helped support me when I was younger, and some of you on your own. Some of you already are like, you already have a family, and you have to do this, and you have to figure out how to find time. But I think as fresh grads, or while you're in school, I think getting that experience and getting part of those groups will help you, and it'll make that process easier. I think that if you want to jump into something, like you want to get a degree and your expectations is to jump into a senior level analyst, and then you're saying it was easier for you, that's always been untrue. If you have to, how long you have to put your time in, that's always been untrue too. If you're good, you're good. You keep moving forward. Don't let people tell you that you have to put a year in before you promote. If they're not going to promote you, there will always be other opportunities for you if you're really wanting to push and learn and learn and learn. It's one of the things, I think GIS is one of the things in data, period, is that you have to constantly be learning. So an example is, like, in my feed for Google, it's nothing but data science. It's nothing but data warehouses. It's nothing but GIS and the newest trends, because that's what I always search. That's what I'm always reading. You always want to keep, that's one of the things I'd say is never let yourself stagnate, at least with your knowledge and what's going on and new techniques. Just because you can't use them at work doesn't mean you can't go research, doesn't mean you can't go watch YouTube. I think the one thing that is easier is, like, I can go to YouTube like the day after something comes out and someone's already had a review of it or how to use it or if it's better than the previous version. I'd say, like, information and knowledge is a lot easier now than it was before. I remember when I was in college, like the books, that the PDF ebooks were just coming out, and it was like we had like a special group of people that would only share them. They wouldn't share them with anybody else. And so everyone else, but they got books faster and they had more books. So they could have books like the programming books for upper division and lower division, and they do better because they'd be able, the ones that wanted to learn a lot would learn really fast, and then they go into the upper division books. They'd work with the upper division people, students, and they'd be acing, they'd be doing good on tests or in their career because they were able to be exposed to more knowledge. And that's what the internet gives you now, right? So Stack Exchange has tons of GIS stuff on there. Like you search like, you have how do I query for this? It's there, right? It's already been answered. I think that's the one thing that I think people should take advantage of as much as possible.
Yeah, there's so many good resources. A couple more questions came in. I really like this one. Do you think developing a GIS portfolio is useful for students? Do the people, HR, reviewing applications really look at them?
So sometimes they don't, right? Because the HR is going to only look at certain things, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't bring it to the interview. Even if it's virtual like this, you can say, okay, everyone, would you mind if I went over my portfolio with you? And some of the work I've done, some of it's school, but some of it's what I've done on my own. And what's really impressive is when you take the time to learn about the place that you're trying to do GIS work in, and you create some things there. So like that extra mile is what I'm talking about. So that, yes, create the portfolio and then have pieces in it that you can customize for whatever you're doing, and spend the time when you I know you don't have a lot of time, but at least spend enough time to rewrite some of the pieces of the application so that it's not generic and it's targeted at the job you want, because that makes a big difference between another person that has exactly the same skills as you, but you went the extra mile to say, this is why I would be good for this. I'm just telling you, I see a ton of applications. And maybe I didn't answer that whole question, but I really think I'm really passionate about people that bring portfolios. I think it's really good. I think it shows you cared enough to put it together. Even if it's just schoolwork, I like seeing it, and a lot of people do. It sets you apart. It does.
Yeah, I agree. From having hired folks, it's kind of fun to have a portfolio to talk over if they bring it particularly to an in-person interview. There's something, even a binder of maps to look over it, and projects. Fun way to start conversations, I think. We have another question from Dan Skolin. GIS job opportunities have long been stronger in urban areas. Any suggestions for promoting GIS in more remote and rural areas, such as far northern California?
Some of those might have to be like, so when the reason they're far and few between in the remote is if it's not one private industry is probably some, if they're doing work there and they have GIS people, it's probably remote work, right? Could even be from their state. If it's specifically government, sometimes you have to really take into effect where you are. Like Modoc County versus the city county of San Francisco. Like I'm just giving two extremes there, right? Lots of tax base, thousands of employees, probably hundreds of GIS, if not thousands of GIS professionals, versus maybe one GIS professional from Modoc County. And it has to do with the scope of their budget, really, is what it comes down to. I think that if you did want to do something in that nature to help those remote areas, you could work with a nonprofit. You could become, or you could work with the government there, volunteer, show the use for it, even remotely, help out, and then show them how it could benefit them and grow it into a real position. I've seen that happen over and over because people don't know what they're missing until they have it. And then when the volunteerism ends, they realize that all their workflows were based on it, right? It's all of IT. That's not GIS, right? It's like, so there's some strategies there, but I would really focus on finding out how it could be used, and then approach people in those areas in government or in private industry and tell people how you could do it, right? I know I'm sounding like a solar power kind of approach, like, hey, you could generate this much more revenue, or but it really is that's really the basic reason. It's the budget for the government there, and the types of things they do versus a budget for government here that attracts all kinds of other businesses. It's like Modoc County is a high, most of it is high altitude desert, right? Like alpine desert. So like, is that right? I think so. But I'm not really good with the climates. My professor's going to kill me if she hears this. But yeah, that's the basic reason why. And I'd encourage you, right? go out there. I know the people out there in those counties. So if you want to be connected to them and you want to tell them, like, I'd like to at least volunteer, show you how you could use it, not a problem. If you want to start an advocacy thing for that, you know, I can at least introduce you to people.
There's a question here from Nathaniel Roth. What types of career, oh, my thing's moving. More questions come in. Oh, I lost my place. There we go. What types of career tracks do you see within GIS, and how significant are they to the state's future in general and within the GIS profession, i.e. IT backend focus, application development focus, subject matter expert focus?
There are tons of backend infrastructure. And well, what's happening right now is that, you know, Jane's on the line here, but there's a whole, if you love hydrography, I will connect you with Jane, and Jane can tell you all about hydrography. And literally, the state that there are agencies that GIS, you know, they work with federal hydrography, they work with state hydrography and local hydrography, and some of these agencies and departments pay for themselves because of the work they do and the taxes they collect, and GIS is critical to that, to billing, to metering, to, you know, to giving futures on different things that it could happen, right? Dam issues we had in Oroville. So and then you go off to the other extreme, right? Like fire. There's whole agencies, CDF, Cal Fire. It's all like Cal LDM. I call it CDF. Cal Fire. It's dedicated to in fire, right? Disaster. Is dedicated to disaster. Like I'm at CDT. We're dedicated to like not only technology and innovation, but best practices, right? And policy and contracts. So it's like, and you know, we've got we got the conservation. So there are SMEs in there that use GIS. There are back-end infrastructure people that work directly with GIS, have GIS backgrounds. And there are managers like myself that do nothing but GIS and data. So it's very diversified, and you can, that's why I'm saying, find your passion first and then use your skills in your passion. Because there's nothing worse than feeling that you have to stay somewhere. And because there are a lot of opportunities. If you go on calcareers.org right now, not calcareers.org, it's calcareers.ca.gov. But go to CalCareers and type in GIS. And you'll get a bunch of hits. They don't say GIS in a title all the time, but if you look at the job duties, you'll see it's very involved. So there are lots of opportunities in those categories you mentioned, and in between those categories as well, because you can use it just as a business analyst, and they never called it GIS, but they use it, right?
I think that's good advice, is to do something you enjoy and fit things in there, as opposed to the other way around, is trying to figure out what's popular and then fit yourself into what's popular. I think we have time for one more question here. Lots of people don't know what GIS is. How do you explain GIS and your job in an elevator speed?
Well, I think that what you do is you have to take a step back from it, because first, when they ask the question, take a step back and think for a second. And if I don't say it's everything, it can be anything. I just say, okay, you know, whether or not you know it, you're using GIS every day. Your phone is an example. So the technology behind your phone that lets you know exactly where you are and gives you directions, and then you can share your location, all these different things. It's all GIS. It's where you are and the data about it, or where something else is and the data about it. Now, the heart of it is, how do you get those things to react? How do you get those things to talk together that makes sense, right? Give you directions from here to there and then connect it in the middle. Those are the mechanisms of how we use GIS in every day. Like, so, right? So it's and then if you're like, basically it's anything on Earth has a spatial component and can be related to something else. That's what I say. And that's what I do. I help people figure out how this area of the Earth, this point of the Earth, is related to this causation. Well, so why did all these people get COVID here? How many people over time got COVID here? Why did we have to change zoning and the zoning here and then the general plan? You know, you poke back down through it. Oh, we just discovered fairy shrimp 2 weeks ago, so we had to change the whole zoning designation and the general plan for that area because we were going to put houses there. So you see, it's about spatially enabling data so that people can make decisions in an area by being able to stack all the other things about that area on top of it, right? And be able to make data informed and data-driven decisions. So you'll have your own elevator speech, but just say that, like, I help people make decisions based on where things are, where things could be, and the why, what, and where of where things are, So that, because sometimes it's the why, right? But the big thing is the where. That's that's GIS. And that's what makes the big difference, is that you could say these things are related statistically, but when you put GIS, then you bring in another dimension that helps the accuracy and precision of your decision making itself. So I kind of went wide and came back. So hopefully that was okay.
It's much better than the old, it's kind of like Google Maps, but more complicated.
Yeah.
That we've all heard.
I used to say that and people are like, no, I still don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah. There's another question here from Samantha. What do you think about CAD versus the Esri stack? Do you think CAD or Esri software is used more in the GIS workplace, or is it based more on the industry, government versus environmental? I've noticed some workplaces use CAD, Esri software, or even both.
I think both are absolutely needed. And I think GIS is a representation of things, right? It approximates distance and area. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's to the, and if you try to do that, you're going to go insane. I know some people here do it, but that's not really what it's meant for, right? It's meant for data informed decisions. You can do data driven through the data itself, right? So the tabular data itself. But as far as trying to make quick decisions, it's that whole power of where and related to what's also there, right? And it's representative. You do your fact checking back with the SMEs, right, to make sure that's actual case. Where CAD, the world in CAD is precision and accuracy together. So you set your coordinate system, and you're as accurate as you can be. Whether you're doing something in mechanical engineering or you're doing something in civil engineering, you're building out the side of a retaining wall for an area. And they have these they cross together in scenarios like for parcel maintenance, right? GIS, that's big with CAD, and they're both needed. And I will never say they're not both needed, because with parcel fabric from Esri and other solutions, it's an approximation. Even when it looks like it's pushed together, that's just rubber banding, because in the background, it has the real data that doesn't close. But in CAD, it actually closes. Now, that's not to say people haven't got fabric better and it closes in GIS. But anytime you want to go and figure out what it really is, you either open CAD or you go back to a recorded document that tells you the actual information about how many feet to go that way, how many feet to go that way, and the angle in between them, right? So as an SME was for the data we were talking about, as is the recorded document and CAD for GIS. So they're complements of each other. And if you like both, use both. If you only like one over the other, there are quite a bit of paths there. You can pull GIS data into CAD, and you can pull CAD into GIS applications now. So I think you're better off knowing both. If you can afford to take the time to know both and stay proficient in both, I think they're both good skill sets to have.
I hope we've gotten to all the questions. I think that's all the ones I see, and probably all the ones we have time for. So thank you very much, Isaac, for answering all these questions and your thoughts on these things. I hope folks have found it interesting. I think it's certainly fun to talk about all these topics, and perhaps give us all ideas on how we can support each other. So Norman, I've somehow lost my ability to share the wrong button. Feedback presenter. If not, we can speak to the next section without a bit of a slide.
I think you're still a presenter. Is there a button on the bottom next to your video?
It disappeared.
Let's see.
It's okay. We can speak without it. So oh, there we go. No. Got it. Thank you, Norman. All right. So next up, we have some awards coming up. And so this is relevant because some of this is in support of students who are certainly our up and coming GIS professionals. So Chris, if you want to briefly speak about the awards that folks can nominate folks for.
Sure. So our awards for 2021, the nominations are live. The nomination form's live on the cgi.org website. And we've changed things up a little bit this year. And we've kind of expanded the student awards. So in the past, we've done a student award, like a stipend for going to the Esri UC. But given the situation that we've been in the last year, we decided to kind of expand the student awards to give out a $1,000 first prize and a $500 runner-up in the student awards category. So that's so undergraduate and graduate students. The best project award gets $1,000, and the runner-up in each undergraduate and graduate category gets a $500 award. So that's exciting. So if you're a student or know a student, pass the word along, and you can nominate yourself or a student on the cgi.org website. And we also have our standard awards, so the exemplary use of GIS, the outstanding GIS geospatial web application, and excellence in GIS teaching award as well. So these are great opportunities to recognize your fellow GIS professionals and also get much valued GISP award points as well. So if you know anyone that you would like to nominate, please do on our website.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And so we didn't talk much about CGIA, so a few of you may have joined this call and aren't CGIA members. So if you want to learn a bit more, again, there's our website. Feel free to email me, chair@cgia.org, or follow us on social media. So our members will receive notifications about future webinars and other things going on. But if you're not yet a member, just curious, want to kind of check us out, first, you can follow our social media. You'll also get things there like upcoming webinars or the awards. So with that, I want to say again, thank you so much to Isaac for taking the time today to speak with us. I hope you guys found this useful. I think it was certainly a fun conversation and a good way to kind of kick off CGIA's interest in helping new professionals. So this is meant to be an ongoing thing. Isaac was kind enough to post his email in the chat. So if you have further questions that we didn't get to or that you think of after that, use that as a resource. And then again, use CGIA as a resource too. We're here to support each other. So with that, it's after 1:30. So thank you again so much to everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.